Welcome to Pub Natter, where we record each episode in a different pub in Rutland, the smallest county in England. In each episode, your hosts, Tim and Justin, give a voice to the landlords and landladies and a special guest with a specific area of interest or expertise. We hope you enjoy our chats and it encourages you to go and explore our little county and all it has to offer. Like the motto says, there is much in little. This episode is dedicated to Robin, who is a good friend and listener. Robin is a top healthcare professional and has dedicated his life to helping people smile. He is now himself healing following a major operation, and we wish him all the best for a speedy recovery. This episode is part 2 of 2 and was recently recorded at Empingham Cricket and Social Club. And we chat with the bar manager, Russ Hibbett, and Paul Dadford, who is the project manager and chair of the trustees of the Oakham Canal Green Corridor project. We learn all about the history of Oakham Canal and the current plans for its future. When rain stops play, it's time for some pub natter. We've had some unusually good weather this year. So this morning, I took it upon myself to exit my front door and walk straight up Oakham Canal.
Right.
Which is a lovely little walk. From my house and back, it's probably about 50, 60 minutes, which is the perfect segue into Paul.
Perfect. Which bit did you walk?
Well, I live at Foxfield Way.
Okay, yep.
So
on the Springfield section.
Yeah, just straight up there.
Okay. Did you go right to the end of Kimball Close and back again?
Yeah, I try and go left through the wood and then up to the Canals and then back down the canal.
Right, yeah. Because that's the attraction for me, I guess. You know, that I've been banging on about this here canal for about 15 years or so, but the attraction is you've got all these different bits which no more than 400 metres you're into a different bit.
Yes.
So the walk that you took, for example, you've got the section in the housing estate at Springfield, which is Shady Grove, which sometimes has a bit of water in it with ducks.
A lot of ducks.
Yeah, and kids go there and feed the ducks. Across the bypass, you've got a bit that's boggy and marshy and a bit of a wilderness. I can tell you a bit more about the dramas with landowners and ownership later, but we've recently built a new path on that section, which has made it a bit more of a hard surface path down the side of the woodland. You then come out onto a hedgerow section, which is a bit of an open field. And then the public footpath rejoins there along that side of the canal. So you've got 3 bits on the public footpath. So you've got a very reedy bit in which water voles are hiding. You've got the bit then which used to be fished by the Oakham Angling Society with the fishing platforms.
That was up until last year.
Exactly. So sadly the Angling Society has dissolved. Then you've got across the Burnley Road, you've got another bit which the Angling Society used to fish, I think about 30 years ago, but gave it back. So it's slightly different in its feel. It's not been manicured as much, and it's a bit more of an open water section. And then if you come out onto Ashwell Road and come back down the other side, which is some land that we acquired permissive rights over a little while ago, you've got the mature woodland, which I think is about 60 years old. And then crossing back across Burley Road, you've got scrubland and more sort of blackthorn, hawthorn. But in every one of those sections, it's completely different. It's a different habitat, different environment, different feel. And the aim, I guess, of the project is to look after this space, to help the landowners manage it. We were, as a project, we never really wanted to own anything. We don't want to own the land if we can help it, but rather help the landowners manage the space. So that's the plan.
So let's just rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
So how did this all start? Tell us the story.
Yeah. So I've been living up here for about 30 years or so, and probably after about 10 years, so going back 20 years, I joined an organisation called the Melton and Oakham Waterway Society. So they have plans to restore the Melton-Mowbray navigation, which ran from the what is now the Grand Union Canal at Syston through to Melton, and longer term to realise similar benefits for the Oakham Canal. And because I live in Exton and was more associated with the Oakham end, I guess, I did a lot of work around looking at what the Oakham Canal used to look like, researching its history and what could be done, who were the landowners, that sort of thing.
So what did you do in a previous life?
Oh, in a previous... Well, I still do. So in a previous life, I've done lots of things, but latterly, since I've been living up here, I'm a procurement consultant working on major events. So I worked on the London Olympics, Rio Olympics, the Qatar World Cup, and all of those sort of big kind of events. And I still do some consultancy work part-time, although latterly, now I'm retiring, I drive other people's boats for a living. So I skipper the Rutland Bell on Rutland Water, I skipper for a charity in Loughborough on a Monday, I skipper a boat on the Grantham Canal, and I skipper for a charity down in Braunston. So, but while all of this stuff was going on about trying to look after the Oakham Canal and set something up, I was working away in Rio. So, it takes a long time. And what you quickly realise is that first job is to try and engage the landowners and those people responsible for bits of things. So, for example, Rutland County Council are responsible for the footpaths, the public footpaths along that canal corridor.
Can I just get you to rewind a little bit as well?
Yeah.
Did you have a vision in your mind? What was your vision?
The vision for me is not restoration. Okay, there are lots of reasons why you can't restore the Oakham Canal, and if you like, I'll talk about them a little bit later. But the vision is to encourage more public access into that green space, because although Rutland is a very rural county, pretty much you've got to jump in your car to go to somewhere nice. You've got to jump in your car to go to Rutland Water. You can't get there from the town. So from the town, you can walk, as you did, through this lovely green space. Yep.
And is it all of it with water, or is some of it dry?
No, and that's the beauty. So the Springfield section that you talked about there, it's wet in the winter, it dries out in the summer. It's suffering from what's called hydrosear succession. So it's wetland which is gradually drying out because it's lost its feed from the rest of the canal. Yeah. Across the bypass, you've got a very boggy, marshy bit, which is only fed from the spring at the Springfield, which is in the fields. Beyond that, the water is retained by the big dams that the fishermen built a long time ago, and that is continually being fed from streams down from land. So there's different levels of water in different parts. But the vision was to say, look, broadly 120 blokes spent 8 years of their life digging a flipping great big ditch from Melton to Oakham.
And this was in 1700s?
In the late 1700s, so between 1794 through to 1802, that's when the canal opened. So they spent 8 years digging a ditch. There's a lot of effort. There are still some bits which are walkable, particularly the bit that you've seen there from Springfield through to the Kimball Close lay-by, as we call that. It had become pretty unwalkable. So if I go back 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, you couldn't walk the thing in the winter, even though they're public footpaths. Just a sloppy, muddy mess. And I thought, it's such a waste, right? There's such a lot you could do with this if somebody looked after it. And as I said, you start talking to landowners and interested parties like the Angus Society, and the kind of reaction is, that's a great idea. Go on then. And doing that on your own is not an easy job, which is, and as I said, I was working away at the time, so it took a lot of effort to get the right people involved. And I guess what I realised, I attracted some really good people along the way who've subsequently become trustees with me for our charity, is that you've got to stop being a talking shop, you've got to do something. Yep. So initially, it was the Melton and Oakham Waterways Society, Rutland County Council, a company called the Sustainable Land Trust, who helped us with some ecology advice. And we were going around in circles trying to identify what we could do. And eventually, there comes a point where you've got to do some deals with some landowners, and the three-way party doesn't cut it. Right? So you've got to set up an organisation. So just over 4 years ago, we set up a charity to take the thing forward. And the first deals we did were with the trustees of St John and St Anne, who own the land of the woodland on the western banks of the canal. We got a permissive path arrangement with them. We put some new steps in to get access to that northernmost section. And since then, we've resurfaced paths, we've built new bridges, and we've gradually opened the thing up so that you can walk it pretty much all year round. And the main thrust there is, as I say, public access, protecting that heritage asset, and improving the habitat for all the wildlife that lives there. Because We've got 5 different species of bat that live along the canal corridor. We've got roe deer, badgers, water vole, all kinds of species that live in the various habitats along the way.
And were they introduced by you, or
No. So they are native to that area. And as I said, in the face of increasing development around the town, it's important to keep that green corridor. That's the whole thrust of the project.
So I know it's all on your website, and a podcast isn't the ideal medium, but could you kind of walk the route for us,
Yeah.
and sort of give us some landmarks on the way?
Yeah, so as I said, if I take the typical route from the town, so you can come to the northern side of town, just inside the bypass, into what was called the Springfield Estate. So typically, if you walk through the town, you come to Kilburn Road. You go up Kilburn Road, wiggle through the housing estate, and you'll find the piece in the Springfield Estate. You'll then need to cross the bypass. Once you cross the bypass, you'll see a milepost that we got donated by a nice lady from Cottesmore, who.
This is just at the bottom of the bridge, isn't it? The
Yeah,
railway
so
bridge,
she rescued the milepost, for want of a better word, with her father from Ebdenthorpe, and we put a nice interpretation sign there. And then you follow the path directly ahead. It's not the public footpath. The public footpath at that point goes along the bypass to just before the bridge, down the side of the railway line, and then diagonally across the field. Our aim is to extinguish that path if we can and reroute it so that it protects the canal corridor. Quite a bit of support for that amongst the landowners, but there's complexities around development, who the local authority is going to be, all those sorts of things. But continuing across
a major safari park.
Oh, yeah, it's horrendously complicated. But you've got then that path that we've just built north. You'll come to a gap in the hedgerow. The path then continues directly
So we're
ahead.
now walking parallel to the Ashwell Road,
Yeah, you're walking parallel to the Ashwell Road, yeah.
but north of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're coming to a section which has been largely filled in. There's a big hedgerow, and then you'll come to where the public footpath comes diagonally across the field to an area that's kind of known for its little bridge across what is a spillway for the excess water from the canal. So the excess water actually comes off of that spillway, goes round past Dog Kennel Cottage, which is following the bypass, and out into Rutland Water. So there is a water link between Rutland Water and the spillway bridge.
I mean, is there still excess water?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There is at the moment.
Yeah, there is at
Yeah.
the moment, yeah.
Loads.
That bridge got eroded not so long ago, and the county council has spent some time and effort in reinstating the bridge because its foundations were being worn away. And then you just simply continue following the path north. New hard surface paths that we installed over the last 2 or 3 years.
So you're now swinging up towards Langham.
Yep, no, keep going towards Ashwell.
Right.
So you keep heading north, follow the path, you'll come to the Burley Road. There used to be a humpback bridge there back in the day, which was demolished. And then you'll see the public footpath continues down some steps on the far side, continuing north, and then the path exit out onto the Ashwell Road, just before you get to Kimball Close. So just north of the Enterprise Park on the Ashwell Road.
Just
Oh,
by,
right, yeah,
just
I
by
know
the
where you are.
kennels.
Yeah, by the
just
old
by
prison.
Yeah, Kimball Close, yeah. And then you can, halfway around the lay-by, you'll see a permissive footpath sign. You can enter into there and then start heading back south through some woodland, retracing your steps down towards the Fisherman's Dam and then back to town.
So you're now going by Oakham playing fields.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
at
you're
the
coming,
far side,
you're
if you
coming a
like,
bit
from the
further.
bypass.
Yeah, a bit further north. So you're staying between Ashwell Road and the railway line. So the canal follows the line midpoint really between the Ashwell Road on the right-hand side and the railway line on the left-hand side.
Right, with it.
So did the canal go as far as the church car park
Okay,
in
so
Oakham?
here's the plan.
The reason I asked this question is because we did a podcast last year at the Wheat Sheaf,
Okay.
and we were informed that half of the Wheat Sheaf, as it is now, used to be a shop selling rope.
Okay.
For,
Could well be.
For
So
canal
the
barges.
Chandlery.
yeah.
Just say that word again, sir.
A chandlery.
A
Yeah.
chandlery. What a great word.
So the canal terminated in what is now the Oakham School grounds. So I don't know if you've been in Oakham School, you know Oakham School. So the main Oakham School entrance on Ashwell Road was the main entrance to Oakham Wharf. And the Queen Elizabeth Theatre was the Oakham Wharf building. And although the canal was opened in 1802, the wharf building itself wasn't built until 1840. So the idea was you could bring your barges directly into that building, offload them under cover, and then the whole of the Oakham Wharfs, the Oakham School site, effectively was one big open warehouse wharf with a weigh house, so the goods were weighed as they came in and out.
So what goods are we talking about, Paul? Are we talking about all sorts, or just something in particular?
Coal and building materials is what was coming in. If you look around Oakham, very few brick-built buildings were built before the coming of the canal in 1802 because you couldn't get enough coal here to make bricks. Yep. So the headmaster of Oakham School once described Oakham before the coming of the canal as a ramshackle collection of cob and thatch. So there were no brick buildings. And what was going out is what we do now, agricultural produce, right? We're a farming community. We sent agricultural produce to the wider markets.
So where was the canal relative to Kilburn Road then?
So Kilburn Road, it
Back of where I used to live, down Barmstead Drive.
Yeah, exactly right. Barmstead Drive is where the canal used to run.
So the wharf was kind of to the north end of the open playing fields.
So originally, the canal terminated where Wharflands is, which is the school building. Just you could see it across the playing fields from Kilburn Road. That used to be where they just offloaded the coal directly onto the bank. The T section, which took it into the new, what is now the Queen Elizabeth Theatre, the new wharf building, wasn't built until 1840. And when they were building Wharflands, clues in the name, right? The excavation for that was just coal dust underneath from the foundations because they were just offloading produce straight onto the bank. But yeah, the original plan, incidentally, was not to terminate at Oakham. Robert Whitworth, who was the engineer who came up with the design in 1786, conceived a canal which would run from Melton all the way through Oakham, straight down Church Street, out the other side, into what is now Rutland Water, following the Gwash Valley, out through Ryle, and to connect with the Stamford Canal, which terminated at Wharf Road and out to Market Deeping, providing a link out to the East Coast. And that was never built.
Wow.
They tried again in 1810 to get that extension built. It didn't get through Parliament.
The railways were coming. When did they start?
Later, it was mostly objections from landowners.
That's it.
Getting a canal built is and was a very hideously complicated job because, one, you've got to acquire the land. Two, you've got to convince the people that use that land, particularly watermill owners, because you need the water, right? Something has got to feed these canals. So you're taking water from rivers and from mills. You've got a lot of objections from watermill owners, and you need an act of Parliament, right? So to do that, you need to get your landowners, MPs, all of the objections gone away to get your act of Parliament through. So Whitworth, as I said, who came up with a scheme in 1786, it wasn't until 1793 that the Act got passed. Yeah, so it takes a long time. You've got to convince a lot of people.
You know, you said build a ditch.
Yeah.
There's a bit more to it than that, isn't there?
It's a big ditch, yeah.
But what stops the water seeping through the...
Clay. So it's clay lined, yeah.
Okay.
So the clay was puddled. So we're quite lucky around here. There's quite a lot of clay soil, as you probably know.
Well, we're lucky with our farmhouses, more nice limestone soil, free draining.
Exactly.
We have a couple of areas of clay, but there's a lot over, Eggleton side, isn't there, which is
Correct.
why you've got the bird watching sector and all that.
So typically back in the day, you dig your ditch, you fill it with clay, and you get your local farmer to run the cattle up and down it, to puddle it in and make it watertight. That's what you did.
And just stick a load of water in it.
And just stick a load of water in it. Our problem, when you think about it, and this was partly the Oakham Canal's problem, is we in Oakham are 350 feet up a hill. Melton is circa 250 feet up a hill, so it falls 100 feet between Oakham and Melton, right? And it falls again down to Syston, and then obviously everything flows down the Soar into the Trent and out to the sea.
That's really counterintuitive.
Exactly.
In my head, I feel that Milton is higher than Oakham.
Circa 250 feet. So it's a 100-foot drop between Oakham and Melton, right? So there were 19 locks installed on the canal to cope with that.
So where were they?
The first lock, if you're going north towards Melton, the first lock was at Edmundthorpe.
All right.
Okay? So they were mostly going down towards Melton because they used the Vale of Catmos as far as he could, and then tapped into the River Eye, which falls down, quite extensively at the northernmost end. So the challenge is you've got to keep water coming in at the uphill end, because every time you use a lock, broadly 56,000 gallons of water is flushed down the hill towards Melton, and you never see it again, right? Where's the big rivers in Oakham?
There ain't any.
There isn't any,
It's
correct.
the gouache, that's
So,
it, isn't it?
yeah, and that's on the wrong side of town. So the challenge for the Oakham Canal was, although it opened in 1802, it took 6 months to fill up with water at the Oakham end. And in 1822, 25 and 26, it was shut because there wasn't any water in the Oakham end. Right? So they engaged an engineer you might have heard of called Thomas Telford to come to town and have a look at the Oakham Canal.
Wow.
And he came up with several ideas. He said it was the finest brickwork he'd ever seen, by the way, in the locks. Good. The survey report is in the Leicester County Record Office if anybody wants to have a look. But he came up with the idea of diverting water from the gouache on the far side of town through underneath, broadly we think where the station is now, into the canal. But unfortunately it didn't help because by 1844 the canal was shut for 6 months at this end. Didn't have any water. Which is why when anybody talks to you about restoration, okay, simple, isn't it, right? So it's a lot of bits of pond in private ownership now. You've got to reacquire all that land. You've got to fill in the missing bits for which you require an Act of Parliament. You've got to reinstate 19 locks, best guess £1 million a lock. And then if you could do that, right, where's the water coming from? Somebody on one of my walks said to me,
Rutland Water, surely we've got a huge reservoir.
Exactly right. So what I said was, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll write to Anglia Water and say, can we put a pipe in, right, to your perfectly serviceable drinking water, stick it the other end into the canal for leisure boat use, and then we'll keep flushing 56,000 gallons of water down the hill every time somebody wants to use the lock. And I don't think that's going to work, do you?
So, during the majority of years when it was operational, where did the water come from?
So, the tributaries to the River Eye, okay, flow around from Cold Overton and this part of that western side, if you like. So there were several parts tapped into that. At this end, the biggest source of water was the Barleythorpe Brook. Right? You can see it on your estate, right? Not much water in it now, is there?
No.
There was more in it back in the day, right? So the world has dried out since the canal was built. But the Barleythorpe Brook, tributaries from the River Eye, were all that was feeding this end. Whitworth had a bit of a cunning plan in his drawing that just the far side, just the north side of Kemble Close, the Canals, he put on his drawing that there should be a reservoir there. The canal company suffered from some problems in construction. It lost its chief engineer 2 years into the job and couldn't find a new one. It ran out of money and couldn't finish the job and had to go back to its shareholders for more money. So whether the new engineer on the job said, you don't need that reservoir, you'll be fine, or whether the canal company said, not building that reservoir because we haven't got any money,
Can't afford
it never
it.
got built. Right? So life would have been better with a reservoir this end, but it never got built. And as I said earlier, for several years it ran out of water this end because we're at the top of a hill. Everywhere you look, we're up.
Well, that's good news, isn't it,
There
in
you
many
go.
ways?
And all these canals were privately funded, were they?
Absolutely. So there was only one canal in the British Isles, as far as I'm aware, that was funded by the government, and that was the Caledonian Canal in Scotland, because we wanted to get ships from one side of the country to the other without going right round the top. So yeah, private investors. And from the Oakham Canal's point of view, we think broadly 550 shares were issued, 545 I think, £130 shares. So it was quite an investment back in the day. A lot of landowners bought shares. It was a get-rich-quick scheme. Everybody thought we were going to make a load of money, and nobody did. But there were some local people involved, some bakers, that kind of thing, who honestly thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. Right? But yeah,
I'll make the jokes.
Unfortunately, for your £130 share, in the 50 years that the canal was going, you got £87 back in dividends.
So put a modern day figure on a £130 share. What would that have been now?
I don't know.
A bloody lot of money.
A bloody lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah.
Well, I can tell you the canal cost £68,000 to build, and that's about 100 million in today's construction cost money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but nowadays that would have been the budget set,
That's
and it would have
Would have been
gone
at
way past
300.
that. We'll talk Wembley Stadium
It's
and all that
crazy.
kind of stuff.
But it's just amazing now. I talk to a lot of people. People come on our canal walks. They didn't know a canal existed in Oakham. It's a hidden secret, a hidden gem. And I'm mad passionate, as you probably hear, to preserve this piece of green space, because a lot of people spend a lot of time digging it, right? And I'll be damned if it's going to get filled in and forgotten about.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what about the horses and the livestock? Where were they all kept?
Okay, as far as we know, the canal company only had one boat of its own, right? So these were all commercial carriers that operated on the canal. So as you probably know, you got paid. There you go.
Just
Lot of money.
go on, what was the answer?
If you were investing in that today, it would be £16,000 a share, just over, which is not a.
No, I thought
it's
it'd
the
be
sort
more
of
than
money that a middle class
Yeah.
person could afford, which is probably
Exactly.
about the same
Correct.
as it was then.
Yeah.
But,
It's a lot of loaves of bread, though.
but it's
That's
a
lot
big
of bread
enough.
for a mate. Yeah.
It's a big enough chunk of money that you'd miss it if you lost it.
Yeah. and,
Really would.
and they did. So horses. So as I said, the canal company didn't own any boats themselves, so they were all horse drawn. There was stabling provided at the Oakham end in the wharf, and what was the Odd House public house, which is now Oakham School.
Used to be my local.
Exactly. You probably may know that was a canal boaters pub. The stabling at the back was the stabling for the horses. There was another pub, which is on Ashwell Road, called the Boat Inn. That's just a bit further north than the chip shop and the sweet shop. It has a brick gable end. It's painted kind of light grey on the outside. But that used to be the Boat Inn, which was the boaters pub at Oakham End. There is a boat inn at what used to be Melton Canal Basin.
Yeah.
As you come over the bridge, that was where the bridge and the railway line is now. That used to be the Canal Basin, and the boat inn there was a boat inn at either end. There you go.
Well, the boat in Melton is still there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
It is still there. It's a canal boozer pub, really, right?
It's a decent pub.
It was underwater a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's got
Yeah.
memorabilia on the wall. Go and have a look. So,
Yep. Shout out to Robin, my mate, who plays darts there.
yeah, there you go.
Well, I'm suitably fascinated that I'm going to take a walk along there.
Yeah, it's really
I'll
good.
take you up there.
I guess for me the sad thing is that beyond Kimball Close, you can still see most of the canal in the environment. It goes through where Rocks by Rail is now. If you come down the hill from Market Overton towards T, you'll see the old wharf buildings on your left-hand side. You can see various bits of it in the landscape. And if you look on Google Earth, you can quite clearly see where the canal runs.
Yeah.
No public access, that's the problem.
That's a
So
shame.
very little of it you can get to.
Ironically, as you go through T as well, you go through the disused railway.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
now no longer part
Correct.
of
Yeah.
our communication system throughout the UK.
The kind of vaguely interesting thing is that the Oakham Canal wasn't stupid. In 1844, when it was shut for 6 months because it didn't have any water, that was the year that the Midland Counties Railway came to town and said, guess what we'd like to do? We'd like to build a railway line. Guess where that's going to run? From Peterborough right the way through to Syston, pretty much along the route of the canal. And the canal company weren't daft. They quite quickly entered into some dialogue with the railway company. And the Oakham Canal was the first canal in this country to sell out to a railway. It started a bit of a trend.
And the railway wouldn't need quite so much water.
No, to be fair, it doesn't cut across the canal in very many places at all. They didn't want the canal site itself. What they wanted was a trade, right? You know? So they bought the canal company lock, stock and barrel for a lot less than it cost to build it. The shareholders got not a very good payout. The canal company had some significant expenses. Yeah, I bet they did. And sadly, everything got dismantled.
And that railway line that came through and destroyed the Oakham Canal was the same railway line that gave birth to the railway where we did our first podcast and the proliferation of pubs in Ketton.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spotted. So, was there any advantages of the canal over the railway?
It was cheap, right? So moving goods on the canal was pretty cheap compared to the railway. The problem is it was slow. You couldn't carry so much.
Unreliable because of the water situation.
And although some canal companies that sold to railway, the Grantham Canal is an example, the railway company kept both. They kept a slow route, and they kept an express lane effectively via rail.
So first and second class postage.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, and as I said, you know, as a project over the years, we've kind of with a small gang of old people supported by some willing volunteers. We've been really lucky in getting some funding. We've been able to do all these things that have improved it. And as I said, if you walked it today, you'll see a massive improvement to what it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You couldn't walk the thing.
No, I have noticed.
We got a lot still to do.
Yeah, there's been a lot of improvements. I'll take the two things that I've noticed. Number one is the lots of gravel.
Yep.
Number two is the wood chippings.
The chippings
that are regularly put down to cover up the boggy bits and through the woods.
It's working. We were a bit worried because in the woodland that's a permissive path arrangement. It's not. It was never the tow path, and it was never intended to be a hard surface. And we were a bit worried that if we tried to think about a hard surface, we would kind of spoil the woodland a bit. So we had a bit of an experiment 2 years ago. It gets really boggy in the winter. Had a bit of an experiment. Could we get a load of wood chippings? We bought some through a grant that we got. We've had quite a lot donated recently, including some recently from Rutland Water, funnily enough. And we thought, we'll put some down, see how it goes. And it made a difference. It wears out pretty quickly, but over the course of the last 2 years, we're having to put less and less down because gradually we are making that difference, And it's all about keeping the route open all year round. And it's not easy. We can drop them off at either end, but somebody has to shovel them into a wheelbarrow, take them for a walk down the canal, empty it out, come back, do it again. The wood chippings are not quite so bad, but when you're trying to do that with barrow loads of aggregate, the path we built on the very northern section between Kimball Close and Burley Road, you can't get a machine down there because we've got steps at one end and a ramp at the other end. So 420 metres of path was levelled one mattock at a time. We started at Kimball Close with one wheelbarrow. You fill it up with some aggregate, you empty it out, you go back for another one. It's easy, isn't it, right? Because, But when you get sort of 300 metres down a path, it's a flipping long way.
What you need is a barge to take it down for you.
Would be great, but we can't get one in the water.
Yeah. Show me Canals.
So I think on that section we probably moved 1,000 barrow loads, one wheelbarrow at a time. You get the idea of your average navvy apparently could move 20 tonnes a day. Right, that's a tipper truck full. The likes of what you see on doing the Melton Distributor Road. Right, that's a 20-tonne truck. Right. So, and your average navvy could do that in a day.
Yeah, the other thing I've noticed, that is amazing. The other thing I've noticed is new gates.
Yep.
Which are quite impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a bird watcher. From a wildlife perspective, there's always something new down there.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. To see.
We've got quite a lot of events going on this year. We're going to put them on our website. Conscious that our website needs a bit of work. We have a relationship with a lady who's got a company called Mind and Body doing wellbeing walks. We do our own bat walks, nature walks, history walks this year. So that's really good. And Root and Branch Out, the very nice ladies that do the community fridge and the like, are doing a Dawn Chorus event. So if you're interested in that, we'll put the dates on the website when it gets a bit nearer.
I've been on a couple of narrowboat trips with family, and we used to like mooring up away from towns and villages. We did the Trent Mersey Canal, and we always moored up in the country side. And one of the best things was waking up early in the morning, making a cup of tea, going out onto the back, sitting on the seat where the tiller is, and just listening and watching the countryside open up, the pheasants, and muntjac just running here, there, and everywhere, and that was really special.
It's the kind of feel we want to create. Obviously, we can't get boats back on it for all kinds of reasons that I've spoken about, but it's keeping that accessibility. It's all about public access, trying to maintain that asset, improving the environment if we can do that. And even the work that we did on the paths, when we first did the first path 3 years ago, I thought it looked like we ruined the place, right? It looked brand new. It looks like it's been there forever, It's surprising how quickly things bed in. But if volunteers don't come and help us, it heals up very quickly, right?
Nature, so how do you volunteer?
So we have regular work parties. So we've got a Facebook page and a website. Just look up Oakham Canal. You'll find it really easily. We're easy to find like that. We've got a work party this Thursday. We don't charge any membership. Want to come out? Things for all ages, right? From trimming a little bit of vegetation to moving wheelbarrows, loads of stuff. We can do that. we're doing a couple of other things.
I'm amazed those wheelbarrows don't get nicked.
No, they're chained up, so
Are they?
they're pretty good. Yeah, we needed to buy a lot of wheelbarrows. and we're always looking for other people interested in help us in other aspects of the project. We're trying very hard to improve our young people engagement, right? We're a bunch of old people, typically my age and thereabouts. We're not the future of the canal, right? We need younger people to come and support us and help us, which is why we've got a good working relationship with Oakham School. Their students come and help us, but we want to increase that reach. And this year, we're really going to try and focus on a young person's engagement project to try and get to spread the word, because, as I say, a bunch of old guys and girls are not really the future of the thing.
So Tim kindly invited me to go and walk the canal with him.
Perfect.
But I'd much rather do it with somebody that knows a bit about it. So I see from your website that you do guided walks, and I was particularly interested in the audio walks, so you can be kind of self-guided as far as I can tell.
Correct. So this was a rather off-the-wall kind of suggestion that one of my fellow trustees went to, I think it was York Castle, and put on the old audio guide. You can hear about the history, and he came back and said, "We could do this for the canal." So, good. Who's going to do that then? And he managed to get a company that had done this before for some walks in Nottingham. A very nice company called Excavate, and he for nothing he said, "I'll tell you what we'll do. If I can help you write the bid, we'll put a bid into the lottery to get this done, and if you're successful, I'll do the work, right? And I'll write the thing, get the local community involved, we'll record it, and I'll sort it out for you." So we put in a bit of an off-the-wall bid for £10,000 to the lottery, and I thought, you got no chance here. They got the money. So we got 10,000 off the lottery. Excavate did what he said on the tin. He's written a 2.5-hour guided history walk, but told by characters from the time. So from the baker who bought a share through to Robert Whitworth, who came up with the original design, and loads of other characters. It was acted out by local people. We had Rutland Arts involved, some people from Oakham School as well. It's recorded and edited, and it's available. The tracks are available to download from our website,
Which is?
So it's www.oakhamcanal.org. It's very simple, but if you search for Oakham Canal, you'll find it.
And it's free?
It's free. There is a QR code if you want to scan for the tracks on the back of the toilet block on the Church Street car park. That's where the walk starts, and it'll take you down the canal corridor. And if you don't wish to download it onto your device, you can play it via Spotify, and you can even from the library and from the castle hire for a small fee a headset with it all pre-recorded on, and you can trundle around with that.
I had a little listen to it earlier, just a section, and it kind of tells you, it says if you can see such and such, you've gone too far, so wait a minute until the thing catches up. So you shouldn't ever find yourself in a situation where you think, hang on a second, what they're talking about and what I'm seeing are completely different, as long as you listen.
Yeah, there is an accompanying map which tells you where the track should start and stop. Again, you can download that from the website. But it's a fantastic thing, and if you come on our guided history walks, which is me, I'll tell you the story as we go around. It's a slightly different twist on it.
So you don't do the voices?
I don't do the voices, I'm sorry about that.
Yes.
And the costume changes.
I'm not as talented as that, I'm afraid.
And is there a fee if you want a guided history walk?
We are charging for our walks this year. We did them free for the last few years. The problem that we found, particularly with the back walks, is lots of people want to come on them. And they were free, great. We can only really take 10 people at a time because it's a long, thin strip of land, and you've got a lot of people. It's really difficult to manage.
Health and safety gets everywhere.
And to talk. The problem that we found, because they were free, people didn't turn up at the last minute for a variety of reasons. The weather's not quite so sunny and all that sort of stuff. And I've got people on the waiting list, which is just not fair, really. So we're making a small charge this year for £7.50 for adults and £5 for kids. It's kind of broadly what people donated to us when they came on the walks before. But this time, we think that might encourage people to you bought a ticket, you're going to come. And we hope so. So I hope people will understand that it's not because we're money grabbing, it's just because I don't want to disappoint people with people who don't turn up. And it's just a real shame.
But it shouldn't be seen as money grabbing. You're providing a service
well, like
to the community.
like
What
us,
do you get for £7.50 at the moment?
Yeah.
Membership for a
Yeah.
cricket
It's
club.
1.5 memberships. Yeah.
Is it about an hour and a half to walk?
So our nature walks and our bat walks are about an hour and a half, and our guided history walk is pretty much 2.5 hours. So start from Church Street, back at Church Street, and the nature and the bat walk start at the Enterprise Park and go back to the Enterprise Park. So that's the plan for this year.
Yeah. So 2.5 hours for £7.50 is
That's exactly right.
hardly extortionate.
No, and you can have a beer and a wheat sheaf when you get back. Sorry to promote other people.
Is that included in the £7.50?
I'm afraid not. And again, we
Perhaps
did,
there's a
we
trick
did-
to be learned there.
we did look at that. It's guaranteeing space. That's the thing, isn't it? You know, I've got 10 people. Are 10 people going to come? Are you going to hold 10 spaces for me in a pub? Not really. It's a bit tricky, isn't it? So yeah, it's a difficult thing. But yeah, and typically our walks are on the weekends. The longer walks from Church Street are typically on a Sunday because it's free parking in town on a Sunday. So that's the plan.
And despite the fact that this is all being done by old people, you're quite technologically advanced. You've got an app as well, I believe.
No, only in terms of the audio walks. So you can
Right.
download the audio walks from tracks, but we're not technologically advanced, which is why our website needs a little bit of work. You know, we set the thing up 4 years ago from scratch. You know, and it served its purpose at the time. Don't think it's particularly clear what it is that we do so much, and it certainly doesn't suggest all the things that we want to do about health and well-being, about young people, that sort of stuff. It's not. It's got all the information. It's not easy to find, right? I think so. We need some.
I think you're
work on
doing
it.
yourself a disservice. I had to flick through it earlier today, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the most tech savvy by any means.
Say that again.
I mean, I
That's the
spent-
man who forgot to put the volume up on the headphones before we started.
Yeah, he doesn't see it.
It's a good start. It's for us we need to work on that. But that's the least of our worries, because the most important thing is to continue trying to get deals with landowners, trying to get things resolved. There are lots of complexities around that, as you can probably imagine. Even on the Springfield section that you've got there, what a lot of people don't realise is that the waterway is owned by the county council, but the path is owned by Persimmon Homes, who built the estate, who left Oakham a long time ago, who have no interest in the path, and we've been working behind the scenes for a long time to try and rationalise that ownership into one pair of hands, so that we can help the landowner maintain it, right? And then north of the bypass, complexities around development. Clearly there's likely to be development north of the bypass. We want to retain that bit in the middle. We've got a public footpath that doesn't sit in the right place. Trying to resolve those issues when we're faced with who's the local authority going to be. I'm not saying Rutland County Council are not interested. They're very supportive of the project. They've got other things on their mind, right?
Yep.
I'm the least of their worries.
So when you build north of the bypass, it becomes a road. It's not a bypass anymore, is it?
No, exactly.
Dear, but that's another story.
Almost certainly, I foresee development either side of the disused bit of the canal. I can't see any way you're not going to get development there in the fullness of time.
But the canal will have enough historical status not to be disturbed, or
we try. So that bit north of the bypass, all of the trees in that section are protected by a blanket tree preservation order.
As is the ones in our garden.
However, a lot of them are ash, and some of them are suffering from ash dieback. There is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but there is currently a Leicestershire and Rutland local nature recovery strategy being prepared. A roadshow's just finished from that at the county council offices. And we've spoken to them about the importance of our piece of land. So they're trying to identify, and you can imagine that's a big job across the whole of Leicestershire and Rutland. You've got a small team trying to identify what are the important sites that you want to protect. So we feel we've done enough to get protection in that, and that should cause the local authority to think, okay, the field's fair game, but the canal and its trees are not, because it's supporting its own habitat there. We try our best to protect the thing as far as we can, and longer term, one of our major aims is to say, well, look, and we've got some of the landowners on side already, but could we create a nature reserve, a dedicated nature reserve from this whole piece? Starting from the Springfield section in the south, going up to Kimball Close. That again is mired with complexities because you've got people like the Wildlife Trust who might be interested, but somebody needs to fund a reserve officer to manage the thing. Who's paying for that? Where does that money come from? So lots of challenges, as you can imagine. So at the moment, it's a bunch of old people trying to maintain the thing as best we can. The whole idea is it's an asset for the community, delivered by the community, right? And that's why I said we're trying to encourage as many people as we can to get stuck in and help us maintain it. Loads of people use it.
Do you think there's any risk to it? Because the reorganisation that's been proposed, Rutland County Council is almost certainly going to cease to exist as an entity.
Yeah.
So you'll then be dealing with some kind of lower level apparatchik from the People's Republic of Greater Leicestershire or whatever we become. So actually getting stuff done is going to be more difficult because there'll be less autonomy for the people you're dealing with. And given that this is hand in hand with the desire to carpet the countryside with beautiful cookie cutter homes.
That's it. Yeah.
How much enthusiasm is there going to be to maintain a 200-year-old canal that nobody knew was there 5 years ago?
Well, we think we've generated plenty of enthusiasm so far. From a standing start. How public enthusiasm got gauged, I guess, is before I set up the charity, we were having extensive discussions, as I said, with the county council and others, and the council said to me, "So, is there any appetite for this, Paul? For this green corridor approach?" So I said, "Well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I will put a letter through everybody's door on the northern side of town." So I hand-delivered 600 letters, and I hired a church hall on Station Road, and they said to me, "We've got a couple of halls here. How many people are coming?" And I went, "I don't know, about 10 probably." 100 people turned up. So amazing. And there was one dissenting voice who said, "What about the parking?" And I said, "I'm not trying to create Alton Towers here. I'm just trying to create more walkability for the space than we've already got," right? So we knew there was public enthusiasm for it, and we know that people have walked it over a large number of years, partly why we went for a permissive path agreement on the western banks, because we know people were walking it, right? So trying to formalise the informal was one of the first aims. And yeah, from the standing start 4 years ago when we set the charity up, we've now got over 1,400 followers on Facebook, and for a small local charity, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
but the whole modern thing though is for, like you were saying, health, well-being, and exactly the mind, isn't it? So why would we backtrack from that when you've got this space for people to get out?
I wasn't suggesting there isn't local enthusiasm for it. I'm sure there is a lot of local enthusiasm for it. My concern is that if the 1,400 people that kind of quite like the idea of having it stands in the way of building a couple of thousand houses and meeting a target, are you just going to get
we think that's
run
quite
down?
difficult. It's quite difficult to do anything with the space in the Springfield estate, as you probably saw. It's quite difficult north of the bypass to infill that piece of canal, remove all the trees, which are subject to the blanket tree protection order. We're hoping that as part of an agreement for development between the canal and the railway line, there will be a transfer of land ownership to somebody for the canal itself to continue that green corridor route. So we're quite hopeful that there's always a trade-off when you build something for an environmental trade-off. So we're hoping that green corridor will continue to exist. But there is a threat, you're right, and that's part of the trying to get us in front of the local nature recovery strategy to try and get us on the books to say, look, this is an important green space. And as I said, every 400 metres you're into a different bit of space.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's important that people know it's there and are vocal about supporting it and making sure that it doesn't just get bulldozed.
So if you're listening and you're interested, have a little walk, get on the website, see what's going on, and give your support.
One last question. Obviously, you encourage people to just walk it unaccompanied. It's not just about the looks. Are there donation boxes, honesty boxes, where you can encourage?
There aren't, and that's a good thing. You can donate to the trust via our website, but we don't own the land, right? We're just there to help maintain it. So if people want to donate via our website, they're quite willing to do that. But yeah, it's more important to sign up, see what we're doing, get that local support going.
Well, I can guarantee there'll be at least 2 more people going down there because she'll take the current Mrs. Perry along.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and me, the corrupt Mrs. Hibbett.
So do you want to give like a final shout out to what you would like?
Well, that's a tricky question.
Like more bakers to invest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we got a reasonable core of people that come down and support our work parties, but we could always do with more. So helping us on our work parties is useful. To get funding, we need to demonstrate that enthusiasm, as I said. So people who sign up to our Facebook page, like us on Facebook, follow us, all that sort of stuff, really helps because we can say that we've got that support. Coming on our walks, that really helps. As we talked about, we've got a whole series of walks planned across the summer, not only our own, but the well-being walks and other things going on there. As I said, we'll try and get our events diary published. So coming on our walks to support us, great, and spread the word about us. That's really what we're about.
Sure.
We don't want to be hidden, but I guess until we launch our Young People's Project, we need to get more young people involved.
Sure.
And we don't know the shape of that at the minute. We're working behind the scenes to develop something.
What I would say about the benefits of volunteering is that you will get an opportunity to learn something.
Yeah.
You will get to meet new people. You might even make some new friends.
Correct.
Well, you've got a shared interest just by the fact that you're there, haven't you?
Yeah.
And we do, as I said, it's not just pushing wheelbarrows.
That's right.
Even people who walk their dogs along the canal, if you take a pair of snips with you and you see something overhanging the path,
That's right.
we can't be there all the time. We have a work party roughly once a month. We try and get out there more regularly if we can. But and report stuff if it's not right. We can see if we can fix it. But you're right. Getting out and about in the countryside is what it's about, and a range of activities for all, really.
Yeah.
Good.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Russ,
Pleasure.
for your time today. It's been, and hosting as well. It's been a great podcast.
Yeah, it's been really interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed that pub natter. In our next episode, we head to the Exeter Arms in Empingham, where we are joined by the landlord, Alex Woods, and our special guest is Diana Mary Rose, who is a psychic, a healer, and an author. As you know, we are not a money-making venture. Our goal is to promote Rutland's watering holes and to give a voice to local folk. You can help us by leaving a podcast review, which will only take a few minutes, ideally on Apple Podcasts, as that is where we have most listeners, although we are grateful for any review anywhere. Your reviews helps to promote our little county. Thank you. The music is by Tom Arnold. That was a Pub Natter broadcast.